that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on adjectives that compare. And before we start with our lesson, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we logged into aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts. Grade 2. Once you've selected the subject of language arts, grade 2, and then you're going to scroll down up until you get to the chapter of adjectives that compare. All right. So we're doing adjectives that compare, right? And in our previous lesson, we did adjectives, and we said adjective, it basically tells us about the noun or describes the noun or it modifies the noun, right? So in this case, we are now talking about adjectives that compare, right? So they are comparing sometimes in size, but they can compare in many different ways, right? So during the course of this lesson, we're going to find out how adjectives compare, both comparative as well as superlative. All right. So we see that chapter is adjectives that compare. Subject is English language arts, grade 2. And the lessons that we are focusing on today under the chapter of adjectives that compare is to identify either comparative or superlative adjective. And we're going to find out what is comparative adjectives and what is superlative adjectives. So we're going to identify comparative and superlative adjectives. All right, so some adjectives, right? They compare people, they compare animals, they compare places or even things, right? And when it comes to adjectives that compare, we see that we have comparative adjectives as well as superlative adjectives. And with comparative adjectives, right, it is basically where we compare two people or to animals or to places or to things, but you're comparing two things, right? And when it comes to comparative adjectives, right, comparative adjectives, they end in ER. So comparative adjectives They compare two people, animals, places, or things, right? And we said comparative adjectives, they end in er. So which means that after, or let's say at the end of every adjective, right, it's going to be er. For example, right? So instead of just saying Andy is tall, we are saying Andy is taller than his sister, which means that we are comparing Andy to his sister, right? But now we know that Andy is tall. So we know Andy is tall. But if we compare him to two people, which is comparative adjective, right? We're comparing him to his sister. And then we say that Andy is taller than his sister. And as you can see, we added ER to the word tall. Right? So which means that you're comparing two people to animals, to places or things, right? And then that word ends in ER because it's being compared to one another. And then we have superlative adjectives. And superlative adjectives, they compare more than two people, more than two animals, places, or things. So superlative adjectives, it compares more than two people, animals, places, or things. You can even compare a whole group, right? But that is superlative. And when it comes to superlative adjectives, then it ends in, the word ends in EST. So the word ends in EST. And if we look at an example, it says he is the tallest person in his class. So he is the tallest person in his class, right? So it's like we said, Andy is tall, but if we compare him to his sister, which is a comparative adjective, then we say he is taller, right? Then we say he's taller. But as soon as we compare him to more than two people, right? To maybe a group, to the class, right? Or more than two people, and then we say he is the tallest. So tall, taller, tallest. And we said if it ends in ER, it is a comparative adjective, right? And if it ends in EST, and then it is a superlative adjective where we compare more than two people. All right. And if we look at a few more words, right, that are adjectives and adjectives that compare, we have just our adjective, then we have the comparative adjective as well as the superlative adjective. So I'm just going to go over the ones that is more simpler, right? Let's go to slow. So slow is just our adjective, right? And if we compare it to another person, like two people or two animals, places, or things, it will be slower. And then the superlative, right, where we're comparing it to more than two people, that means that it will be slowest. Then we have small, right? Small. If we compare it to another person or thing, right, then it means that it is smaller with an ER. And if you compare it to more than two people, we say this is now the smallest. And then we have smart. So somebody being very smart, right? So if we were to compare that person with someone in our class, and then we would say, oh, you are smarter than Jan. But if we compare her or him to the whole class, we will say you are the smartest. Let's go to smooth. Let's go to smooth. So smooth is our adjective. And if we compare it to one person, one animal, place, or thing, it will then be smoother, where we add the ER. And if it's being compared to more than two people, then it will be the smoothest. And then we have soft, right? Soft is just the adjective on its own. Once it's being compared, comparative, and then it is softer. So that is if it's compared to one person. But as soon as it's compared to more than one person, then it is the softest. And then we have soon. Soon is our adjective. And if we compare soon or we compare it to one person, right? And then we said we add an ER, which means that, it will be sooner. So soon, if we compare it to one person and two people, we say sooner. And we compare it to more than two people, we say soonest. So that is a few of our adjectives that compare, right? Where we were given the adjective and then we were also given the comparative as well as the superlative adjective. All right. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. So a plus students.ca. So let's go to a plus students.ca. All right. So this is a plus students.ca. And we said some adjectives that compare either people, they compare animals, places, as well as things, right? And we have like comparative adjectives and we have superlative adjectives. So we have comparative adjective, right, which compares two people, animals, places, or things. And if we compare the two people, right, and then it means that our words will then end in er. That is now after the comparison. So then in the er. Then we have superlative adjectives, superlative. And the superlatives, they compare more than two people, animals, places, or things. And we said superlative adjectives is where we compare two or more people, animals, places, or things. And they end in est. All right. So we said some adjectives that compare people, animal, places, or things. All right. So now we need to find the adjective that compares. The lady in the street in the story was richer than the king. All right. So we say that the lady in the story was richer than the king. And if we find the adjective that compares within that sentence, it's already, so we're going to say the lady in the store was richer than the king. So we see that the lady in the story was richer than the king, which means that richer is a comparative adjective. We see that we have comparative and superlative adjectives. And the activity that we did, right, we were to find the adjectives that compare. All right. All right. So if we said find the adjectives that compare, right? And we said the lady in the story was richer than the king. And we identify richer as being the comparative adjective. All right, so richer, so rich. This is now the degrees of comparison where we have like rich, richer, and we have the richest. Right? All right, so we say that this is adjectives that compare, right? And with adjectives that compare, we have comparative, comparison adjectives, and we have superlative adjectives, right? And we said as a comparative adjective, it compares two people, animals, places, or things, and they end in er. And then a superlative adjective has more than two people, animal, places, or thing, and they end in est. All right. The first one says the elephant is the slowest animal in the circus. If we look at this one sentence, it says the elephant is the slowest animal in the circus. So the elephant is the slowest animal in the circus. We need to identify the adjective. And if we find the adjective that compare between the elephant is the slowest animal in the circus, all right. So we said that the adjective that compare was the slowest. And Dale is the youngest boy in class. All right. So now we're going to say Dale is the youngest boy in the class. So Dale is the youngest boy in class. So youngest. All right. So if we were to compare, I'd say so we said the elephant is the slowest animal in the circus. So slowest. So the elephant is the slowest animal in the class. All right. So the elephant is the slowest animal in the circus. That is what we said. And we said some adjectives that compare people, animals, places, or things. So we said the elephant is the slowest, which means that it is superlative. And we said if it is superlative adjectives, right? All right. So now, if we look at these pictures, right? And then we said that we have superlative adjectives and we have comparative adjectives. All right. So we just have the adjective. All right. So now, all right. So we said adjectives that compare. Let us go to our test. We need to find the adjective that compares, right? Sarah's hair is lighter than Eric's hair. So Sarah's hair is lighter than Eric's hair. All right, so Sarah's compares hair is lighter, which means that this is a comparative adjective, right? So if we choose the correct one, is it lighter or is it hair? Sarah's hair is lighter than Eric's hair. So is it lighter or hair? Which one is the correct one? And Sarah's hair is lighter than Eric's. We say this is a comparative adjective. All right, so we said lighter. And lighter is correct. Dale is the youngest boy in the class. So we said Dale is the youngest boy in the class. All right. And we say Dale is the youngest boy in class. Youngest boy in class. And if we choose or if we identify the comparative and superlative, we'll say youngest. All right. An elephant is stronger than a house. Who is stronger? So is it an elephant is stronger than a horse? So is it option one or option two? So we say an elephant is stronger than a horse. So stronger is a comparative adjective. So stronger, it is a comparative adjective. And Aaron is the kindest person I know. And if we find the adjective that compare, we can say it's kindest. So kindest. Our kitchen is cleaner than our living room. So we say our kitchen is cleaner than our living room. Our kitchen is cleaner than our living room. So our kitchen is cleaner than our living room. So we need to find the adjective that compare. Is it cleaner? Is it kitchen? We said our kitchen is cleaner than our living room. And if we will say cleaner, right? Thank you. All right. So we said when it comes to adjectives that compare, right? All right. All right. So we see that we are doing adjectives that compare, and we have a comparative adjective and we have a superlative adjectives, right? Here you go, right? So we said when it comes to comparative adjectives, we we compare two people or more than two people doing an action. Two people, sorry. And for example, you can maybe say either taller, smaller, shorter, because it ends in ER. And then we have our superlative, all right, where it ends in EST. All right, so that is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much to everybody for being part of the class. And I really hope you're going to have a good evening further. Goodbye.